The rise and reach of the Angevin Empire. The Angevin Empire refers to a powerful collection of territories governed by the Plantagenet kings of England during the mid-12th to early 13th centuries. Far more than just a medieval English kingdom, the Angevin Empire spanned vast regions across Western Europe. At its height, it included not only England, but also significant areas of modern-day France, such as Normandy, Anjou, Aquitaine, Maine, Brittany, and Touraine, as well as parts of Ireland and Wales. The name Angevin originates from Anjou, the ancestral homeland of the ruling dynasty. Origins and expansion under Henry II. The Angevin Empire took shape under Henry II, who ascended the English throne in 1154. A capable and ambitious ruler, Henry was descended from both Norman and Anglo-Saxon royalty. From his father, Geoffrey of Anjou, he inherited several key French counties, Anjou, Maine, and Touraine. But it was Henry's politically strategic marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine in 1152 that dramatically expanded his territorial holdings. The union brought the wealthy and influential Duchy of Aquitaine under Henry's control, effectively making him one of the most powerful monarchs in Europe and setting the stage for direct rivalry with the kings of France. Henry's claim to the English crown was through his mother, Empress Matilda, daughter of King Henry I of England. Following a protracted civil conflict known as the Anarchy, during which Matilda fought King Stephen for succession, Henry II eventually took the throne, restoring stability to the realm. A continental empire. Despite holding the title of King of England, Henry II spent much of his reign administering his extensive continental lands. The Angevin Empire was a complex web of feudal territories, each with its own laws and customs, yet all ultimately governed through Henry's authority. The Plantagenet rule was characterized by its decentralized structure. These lands did not form a unified state but were rather a collection of fiefs bound by dynastic ties and military allegiance. Many of them still owed nominal fealty to the King of France, which made Henry's position diplomatically precarious and often the source of political friction. Nevertheless, Henry II maintained tight control over his empire through capable administration and legal reforms, laying the groundwork for what would become one of the most powerful dynasties of the Middle Ages. Conflicts and rivalries with France. The Cape Teon challenge to the Angevin Empire. A defining element in the history of the Angevin Empire was its sustained conflict with the Cape Teon dynasty of France. Although Henry II ruled vast territories across both England and France, he remained, in theory, a vassal to the French king for his continental domains. This paradox created a volatile and deeply antagonistic relationship between the Plantagenet and Cape Teon monarchs. Henry II's holdings in France, far more extensive than those under direct Cape Teon control, posed a serious threat to the French crown. The mere existence of the Angevin Empire undermined the authority of the French monarchy, as Henry's power base extended from the Scottish border in the north to the Pyrenees in the south. Richard the Lionheart and the fragile empire. The tensions between the two dynasties escalated during the reigns of Henry's sons, particularly Richard I and John. Richard the Lionheart inherited the empire in 1189. A celebrated warrior, Richard is most renowned for his leadership during the Third Crusade. However, his prolonged absence from his domains, combined with his limited interest in administrative affairs, left the Angevin territories dangerously exposed. While Richard achieved fame as a crusader and tactician, his lack of sustained governance weakened internal cohesion. During his absences, rebellions and rivalries emerged across his territories, eroding the centralized power his father had once maintained. The decline under King John. The real unraveling of the Angevin Empire began under King John, who succeeded Richard in 1199. Lacking the military skill and political authority of his predecessors, John struggled to hold the empire together. His reign was marked by growing resentment among both the nobility and foreign powers. A key turning point came during the Anglo-French War, 1213 to 1214, culminating in the Battle of Bouvines in 1214. John's forces suffered a decisive defeat at the hands of King Philip II of France, leading to the loss of Normandy and most of the remaining French territories under English control. This territorial collapse not only dismantled the continental foundation of the Angevin Empire but also triggered deep unrest in England. Disillusioned by John's failures, many barons turned against the king, setting the stage for further constitutional crises, including the eventual drafting of the Magna Carta in 1215. Decline and the loss of French territories. The collapse of the Angevin Empire. The most decisive blow to the Angevin Empire occurred under the reign of King John, whose failures both on the battlefield and in governance sealed the fate of this once powerful transcontinental empire. In 1204, John lost Normandy to King Philip II of France, a catastrophic event that marked a turning point in the decline of the Angevin dominion. This loss not only stripped the Plantagenets of one of their most strategic and valuable territories but also symbolized the unraveling of Henry II's grand legacy. By 1214, the situation had worsened dramatically. Following his defeat at the Battle of Bouvines, John surrendered most of the remaining continental possessions. Only Gascony and a reduced portion of Aquitaine in southern France remained under English control. The territorial losses effectively ended England's presence as a dominant landholder in France and marked the disintegration of the Angevin political structure on the continent. Domestic consequences and the road to Magna Carta. John's failures abroad had severe consequences at home. In an effort to fund his military campaigns to recover lost lands, he imposed heavy taxes and levied unpopular financial policies. His fiscal demands placed enormous pressure on the English barons, clergy, and commoners alike, breeding resentment across the kingdom. In addition to his financial burdens, John's strained relationship with the Catholic Church and his authoritarian rule deepened public dissatisfaction. These tensions reached a breaking point in 1215, when a group of rebellious barons forced the king to agree to a monumental charter, the Magna Carta. This document, although initially a peace treaty, would evolve into a cornerstone of constitutional governance. It sought to curtail the arbitrary powers of the monarchy, ensure the protection of certain legal rights, and establish a precedent for rule by law rather than by royal decree. In the end, the collapse of the Angevin Empire not only reshaped the geopolitical balance between England and France but also transformed the political foundations of the English monarchy. King John's reign, defined by military failure and political unrest, marked the end of England's dream of empire on the European mainland. Legacy and impact of the Angevin Empire on English and French history. Though the Angevin Empire ceased to exist in its original form after the early 13th century, its influence on the political, legal, and diplomatic evolution of medieval Europe was profound and enduring. The rise and fall of the empire dramatically reshaped the trajectory of both England and France, leaving a legacy that extended far beyond its territorial boundaries. At its height, the Angevin realm challenged the very structure of feudal Europe. Its collapse, however, catalyzed long-term changes in governance, law, and royal authority. France. Consolidation and expansion. For France, the disintegration of the Angevin Empire marked a turning point. With the loss of English control over vast French territories, the Capetian kings, once overshadowed by their Plantagenet rivals, were able to consolidate power, centralize administration, and expand the royal domain. This period of territorial reclamation and political unification laid the groundwork for France's emergence as a dominant European kingdom during the late Middle Ages. The Capetians capitalized on the absence of English feudal claims to solidify the foundations of a more centralized French monarchy. England, refocusing power at home. The collapse of continental ambitions also had far-reaching effects on English royal policy. No longer able to project power effectively across the Channel, English monarchs shifted their focus inward, toward strengthening control over England, Scotland, and Wales. This redirection of energy and resources contributed to the formation of a more cohesive English state, while also intensifying Anglo-Scottish and Anglo-Welsh relations in the centuries to come. Enduring legal and administrative reforms. Perhaps the most lasting legacy of the Angevin rulers lies in the legal and administrative systems they helped shape, especially under Henry II. His introduction of common law, the expansion of royal courts, and the development of standardized legal procedures had a transformative effect on English governance. These reforms created the foundation for a centralized legal system that endured well beyond the medieval period. Many of the principles introduced during this era, such as trial by jury and royal justice, became cornerstones of English law and influenced legal traditions across the English-speaking world. Seeds of future conflict. Toward the Hundred Years' War. The rivalry between the Plantagenet and Capetian dynasties did not end with the territorial losses of the early 13th century. On the contrary, the unresolved tensions over former Angevin lands, compounded by dynastic claims and political disputes, laid the groundwork for a much larger conflict, the Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1453. This protracted struggle would dominate Anglo-French relations for over a century, continuing the legacy of confrontation first sparked during the Angevin era. In many ways, the ghost of the Angevin Empire continued to shape European politics long after its physical territories had vanished. Major facts about the Angevin Empire. The Angevin Empire, though short-lived, played a pivotal role in the history of medieval Europe. Below are some of the most important facts that define its formation, expansion, and legacy. 1. Founder of the empire. The Angevin Empire was established by Henry II, who became King of England in 1154. Through inheritance, conquest, and political alliances, Henry ruled over an extensive network of territories spanning England, large parts of France, and portions of Ireland and Wales. 2. Strategic marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine. In 1152, Henry II married Eleanor of Aquitaine, one of the most powerful and wealthy women in Europe. This marriage brought the Duchy of Aquitaine into his realm, significantly expanding the empire's influence in southwestern France. 3. Rivalry with the Capetian kings of France. The Plantagenet rulers of the Angevin Empire were locked in a long-standing rivalry with the Capetian dynasty of France. Although the Plantagenets held more land in France than the French king himself, they owed feudal homage for these territories, fueling a tense and often hostile political relationship. 4. The loss of Normandy. A major turning point came in 1204, when King John, the youngest son of Henry II, lost Normandy and most of the French territories to Philip II of France. This event signaled the beginning of the empire's irreversible decline. 5. The Magna Carta. In his efforts to reclaim the lost lands, King John imposed heavy taxes on the nobility, leading to widespread rebellion. In 1215, he was forced to sign the Magna Carta, a historic charter that limited royal power and laid the foundations for constitutional law in England. 6. End of the Angevin Empire. The Angevin Empire effectively collapsed during King John's reign, with only Gascony and parts of Aquitaine remaining under English control. The dream of a vast, unified empire across England and France was no longer sustainable. 7. Prelude to the Hundred Years' War. The unresolved tensions and territorial disputes between the Plantagenets and Capetians helped ignite the Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1453, a protracted series of conflicts that would shape the national identities of both England and France for generations. 8. Legal and administrative reforms. Henry II's legal reforms were among his most enduring contributions. The establishment of common law and the widespread use of royal courts created a uniform legal framework that became the foundation of the English legal system. 9. Cultural and political legacy. Despite its relatively short existence, the Angevin Empire had a profound impact on European politics and governance. It helped shape the development of centralized monarchies, influenced the balance of power between church and state, and played a central role in defining Anglo-French relations for centuries. Conclusion: the enduring legacy of the Angevin Empire. The Angevin Empire stands as one of the most remarkable and ambitious political entities of the medieval period. At its peak, it extended from the northern reaches of England to the sun-drenched provinces of southern France, an empire forged through the strategic vision of Henry II and expanded by marriage, inheritance, and conquest. But while its scope symbolized the height of Plantagenet power, its sheer size and diversity ultimately made it difficult to sustain. Rising tensions with the Capetian monarchy, internal divisions, and the leadership failures of King John led to its gradual collapse. Yet, the legacy of the Angevin Empire did not end with its territorial losses. It played a pivotal role in shaping the political and legal trajectory of both England and France. From the birth of common law to the roots of Anglo-French rivalry, the impact of the Angevin era continues to resonate through history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of medieval Europe's most fascinating empires, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that shaped our world. Join us at History Love for more powerful stories from the past, because history isn't just about what happened, but why it matters today.